Bruce.
I was trying to remember whether there is in fact a point of order for weirdness, but concluded that there isn't, otherwise it certainly could have been taken. This is an absolute treat, isn't it? It's a lovely start to a parliamentary fortnight. This motion from the Liberals congratulating themselves on their economic record. I mean, what a contribution to debate. I read it and I did actually laugh out loud, and I thought, is this April Fool's Day? And then I looked more closely, I thought, oh, it's a new member. It's the member for Hughes. It's the member for Hughes. She's new here, but she has a great advantage over most of us here. She has low expectations because all she has to do is not be Craig Kelly, and people are going to welcome her contributions and presence here. But really, this motion, Deputy Speaker, is utter, total nonsense. If the Liberals or the Morrison government's economic record is success, then I would hate to see failure. I mean, seriously. $1 trillion of Liberal debt. The previous Speaker said, oh, well, it's not fair when they say that because half of it was from Labor. It wasn't. It actually wasn't. That is an untruth. He has a problem, a pattern of mendacity, if he keeps saying that, because I'm not allowed to call him a liar, Deputy Speaker, I know that. $20 billion of JobKeeper the former government paid to companies to increase their profits. I mean, if you were big business, you'd be backing up the truck at the Treasury thinking, really, they're going to shovel it full of cash for the next generation to repay? What a bunch of stooges. Over $1 billion they spent on taxpayer ads advertising themselves. I mean, where were the rorted grants programs? Well, anything the National Party administered, you can guarantee has been rorted, all on the national debt for the next generation. Real wages falling in this country, and they can't hide behind COVID. That is the big lie they keep repeating, Deputy Speaker. Oh, well, it was a tough time. We had to kind of like pour out the cash everywhere because of COVID. 10 years of dysfunction and division. The OECD comparisons are clear. Real wages went backwards for a decade, even before COVID. Productivity was falling even before COVID. The worst productivity performance over the decade they were in office of the last 60 years that they've measured and recorded it. Appalling economic record. The highest inflation rate in 20 years. A flatlining productivity, as I said, and a cost of living crisis. Now, some of that, I agree with some of the defences, excuses the former Prime Minister gave. There are global factors in this. But there was also policy laziness at a domestic level. There were contributions because of what they did and what they failed to do that have led to the mess that we've inherited now. Their response was always one-off band-aids or sticky tape. Throw a little bit of cash, make a silly announcement at a press conference, give it a cute program name. Remember JobMaker? That was the centrepiece a few budgets ago. We had a good old Josh, what happened to him? And Scott Morrison, now the member for Cook, I think we call him, standing up there going, we're going to create 450,000 jobs with JobMaker. Well, 12 months on, they'd created 1% of what they said and they quietly scrapped the program. It's all announcement. It was never about delivery and no serious structural reform. Now, the motion has these little gems. It says, the cost of living and inflationary pressures are having a significant impact on Australian households and business. Well, no, I'm not allowed to say that word, Sherlock. Current and predicted interest rate rises will have severe limitations on working families and the housing market. Well, that's genius, isn't it? It's like the Liberals discover reality. And whilst global pressures are having an impact, the government can implement measures. Well, imagine if they'd been the government for the last 10 years. Maybe they could have done something. The Prime Minister, former Prime Minister, remember his vision was snap back. After COVID, we're just going to have things go back to how they were because it was all going so terribly well, wasn't it? With falling productivity, falling real wages, rising national debt. Now, Labor didn't make the mess, but we are taking responsibility for fixing it. In the first 100 days, we backed the minimum wage rise, which was approved by the Fair Work Commissioning, benefiting 2.8 million Australians. Climate change legislation. I mean, the former Speaker said, well, that's a waste of time, no one cares about that. Imagine supporting renewable energy, the cheapest form of new energy, to put downwards pressure on power prices. Imagine such a radical step. But instead, the former government actively covered up. They actively covered up the power price rises which were coming from them. They know it. They don't like to talk about it. I mean, we could call it a lie, but we won't say that, will we, Deputy Speaker? 180,000 fee-free TAFE places coming on board this year and fixing the migration mess they left. Nearly 1 million visas backlogged right across the economy and families, hurting the economy. We're taking action to fix their mess.
Order.